And for more on this story, I'm joined on Skype by Professor Gerald Steinberg, who's a founder and president of NGO Monitor. Gerald, thanks so much for joining us. Tell me, what sort of precedent does this set, Israel kicking out someone who's here on the region on a visa who had permission to be here?
First of all, he's not being kicked out. Over 18 months ago, the Israeli government decided not to renew his visa. His visa was for 1 year. The fact that he actually got in originally as a human rights expert shows you how open Israel was, because we all knew that he was a full-time BDSer. But the hope was that he would do more things. He might even campaign strongly for the release of the bodies of the 2 Israeli soldiers who were kidnapped and held in Gaza, and the 3 other Israelis who were held there, and do other things that were really human rights. But it turned out that all he did was demonization of Israel in some of the worst ways. And at that time, the government decided not to renew a work visa that was granted essentially under false premises. And for the last 18 months, this terrible Israeli democracy like North Korea has allowed Shakir to continue to live in Israel, to continue his campaigns of hate, sometimes anti-Semitism. He's an eliminationist. He thinks Israel shouldn't exist at all. He's a 1948er, not a 1967. It's not about occupied territories or product labeling. He really is active, as is HRW, in political warfare against Israel. And so after 18 months of court proceedings, the court has decided, after weighing the evidence carefully, that in fact this decision not to renew his visa was legitimate. Now, every democracy in the world decides who to allow in and who to not allow in. And there are lists of people, and in many cases, the United States, the UK, France, we have dozens of examples from each of these countries all the time of denying of visas to people who are in some cases, it's called upsetting the social order. In some cases, they're deemed to be security risks. Well, I think Shakir certainly fits in that category. So comparing Israel to North Korea and to Venezuela and Iran is just part of their hatred campaign. A better comparison would be to France and the UK and other countries that have a very strong legal system and defend their democracies for important purposes.
Okay, you mentioned democracies there, though. How much of a democratic move is this by Israel? Where is the right to freedom of speech and opinion? Israel originally let him in well knowing that he was from Human Rights Watch.
Freedom of speech and all those things apply to citizens of a country. It does not apply to people who are outside. There is no right, there's no automatic right. It's a privilege. When you go to a country, you take out a foreign country, you take out your passport, you sometimes apply for a visa in advance, and the country decides whether you should be or not should be allowed in. In fact, there are many, many cases, particularly after 9/11, of democratic countries that deny visas, sometimes for specific reasons, sometimes you don't know why. Sometimes it takes a long time, they do background checks. So all of this is completely within democratic norms, and the really high-pitched screaming that's going on by the entire human rights propaganda machine. And remember, they've got over $90 million a year, and their top people were here running this campaign. In fact, this is a victory for them. They're going to use this propaganda against Israel. They're going to use the same terminology that we've heard so far today, anti-democratic, excluding, preventing free speech, all of those slogans and those myths and those lies, they're going to use that. So Israel's going to have a tough time in the diplomatic and public relations arena. It may not have been a good move, in fact, to have this law and to apply it, but that's how the court ruled.
Certainly a lot of reactions coming in there. Gerald Steinberg, really appreciate your time. Thank you so much.